Yo, what's up guys, Aiden here. So today in this video I would like to share with you my favourite setup for longing listed stocks, and that is first green day. However, whilst this is my favourite setup and my most profitable setup of 2024, there are other traders out there who are vastly more experienced and more profitable than me who also express their views on what this setup is. So I definitely recommend going out there and looking at the work of other traders as well. In particular, I would recommend looking at Tim Grattani's Trading Tickers 2, where he covers this setup in a lot of detail. I think, however, he calls it reversal long rather than first green day. And his approach is a lot more data driven than mine, so like I say, definitely worth getting out there and seeing other viewpoints. That being said, this is my favourite setup and this is my most profitable setup of 2024, so I'm keen to share with you my views on it, what makes a first green day and how it is that I like to trade it. Alright, cool. So before we look at some charts and I give you some examples of first green days and show you how it is that I like to trade them, I want to go into the criteria and how it is that first green days form, in my opinion. So for me, it always starts with a big day one. So these small cap tickers, which I like to trade, often lie dormant for weeks, months, or even years, not really doing anything. No range, no volume, just kind of just existing really. And then seemingly out of the blue, the press release is released, or there's some news, or there's a tweet, there is some sort of catalyst that brings life to that ticker. It brings traders to it and it brings volume to it, and the stock suddenly ignites. And when it does that, I want it to have a big day one. What I mean by a big day one is a day which has abnormally high volume and has a big increase in price. I don't have a specific set of criteria what qualifies as a big increase in price or a big increase in volume. I just look at, for the volume, I just want to compare it with volume it's done in the past and see that it is significantly higher. I want it to start with a big day one, but there's nothing to say it can't have a big day two, big day three, big day four. In fact, from my perspective, the first green day bounce, or first green day I should say, is often best when it's had a very strong initial climb and an initial run. Now these tickers can really run, so if it has a day one which is like 100%, obviously that is quite a big move, but for this particular setup I kind of want it to have moved 200% or more really. It isn't a hard fast rule. I don't have that. If you want that, definitely go and watch Tim Grattani's Trading Tickers 2, because he's got specific criteria that he wants to be met. That criteria might be a bit dated now because that is a few years old, but he's definitely more data driven than I am. Then I want the ticker to retrace its move, and I want it to do that over the course of one or multiple red days. Okay, and I would like it to retrace its move by anywhere between 20 and 80%. Now, how I want this stock to behave on the backside of the move depends on how it acted on the front side of the move. So if it was very strong on its way up, having multiple green days, just green, really strong, then on the way down, I would like it if it could be very weak with multiple red days. If the stock was like super strong on its way up, it's up say like 4,000%, I don't want it to have a 20% drop on the way down and then be looking to take a first green day. I want it to retrace its move more significantly. Then once it's retraced its move and it's put in one or multiple red days, I want the stock to have its first green day. And this is a bounce. It's a bounce play. It is generally considered a backside setup, so it's trading on the backside of the move. There's nothing to say this can't break out and go to new highs, but it generally doesn't. But sometimes it does, so there's no hard fast rule there either. But yeah, I'm looking for the stock to go green and have a bounce. It could be ideally the first time that the stock's gone green. Okay, so sometimes on the backside we do see that these stocks are having sort of, they try for a first green day, they do just pop green, but they can't hold it and they break red and it fades off more, and it continues to do that further and further down. In an ideal world, it will pop green for the first time and have a run, but it doesn't always work like that. Each of these tickers trades slightly different. They've all got their own personalities, so you kind of have to tune in, make sure you're getting good risk reward, and be willing to cut if you're not right. So that's the kind of criteria I like for a first green day. Let's have a look at some charts and hopefully it will become a little bit clearer for you. Alright, cool. So we're going to look at a few different examples of first green days. And the final one I'm going to show you is a stock which tried to have a first green day multiple times and failed multiple times. And I want to show you that because although this is my favourite setup and my most profitable setup, it doesn't always work as I want it to. And so if this is a particular setup you're interested in trading, please keep that in mind, and you need to be still aiming to get good risk reward and be willing to cut your trade if the stock isn't behaving as you believe it should be. So the first one I want to start with is SGN. So if we start with the daily chart, we can see that this is the big day one. And it's a big day one, not only because it had a huge increase in price, but look at the volume here. On this day, it did almost 550 million shares compared to its biggest day here previously, which was just over 10 million. So that's what I mean about having a big day one, abnormal volume and an abnormally big increase in price. So this, I think, was up almost 500% at one point, and this is its big day one. Then what we see is its first red day, and this is a juicy first red day as well. So the stock actually dropped 50% from its previous close. Off its highs from the previous day, I think this finished about 70% off that. So this is a great first red day, and at this point, given that it's retraced its move as much as it has, I'm looking for a possible bounce, the possible time when this stock can go green for its first time, which it did on this day. So this is its first green day, and this is the move that I was looking for. And if we jump to the intraday chart, you can get a better idea of the opportunity that it offered. So here is the big day one, huge volume. Look at the volume down here, and then it just gives back, like I say, around 70% of its gains over this afternoon and this day. Then what it does quite nicely is it forms this base here. Having retraced its move 70% and having had this big day one, I'm thinking, having had this strong big day one, I'm thinking this can possibly bounce. This can possibly have its first green day, especially because it forms this base. Now this base is, for me, the ultimate risk level. If it breaks this, it's saying to me, this isn't going green, this is going to have another red day. Doesn't mean that it has to, nothing has to happen in the stock market, but at this point I would deem my thesis invalid. So what one can also do is look at previous areas from where the stock came from in order to find perhaps areas where the stock can bounce from. And the reason that this area is significant is if you see down here, my face might be in the way. If you see, no, that's in the way. So the stock bounced from here, okay? And if we look down here on the minute chart, we can see this is where volume started to come in, and you know there was a little bit of an increase in volume all along here. So that area is definitely an area of importance to me. And even though on this particular occasion I didn't identify that area beforehand, once I saw it form its base, I will go back and check and look at the area to see sort of just the levels of volume really. And the more volume that was traded in that area, the more conviction I'll have in regards to using that as my risk level. So this pre-market is the start of the first green day. Now look, these stocks, you don't want to chase them, because if you start chasing this and then all of a sudden you're down in your position, you're not going to feel very good. So you still want to get the best risk reward as possible. I missed this initial spike, but I will leave a link in the video in the description in regards to how I traded this, because I did do a trade video on it for those of you who want to go back and watch it. But like I say, this is the first green day, and so ideally with first green days, I still want to be buying them as close to this support as possible. Okay, so if I did miss this initial run up, but I bought it here. Okay, I bought it here and was risking off this level, and then when it had this wash in the morning, I rebought it here again, risking off this level. So my mistake on this ticker was leaving it to do a YouTube video. Because when I was doing the YouTube video, I bought it here and sold it here, but I was expecting it to retest these highs. Okay, and when it didn't, I kind of sold and then thought, you know what, I'll leave that alone. But there was something in my subconscious that was saying this can still bounce. It's not gone as far as you think it can. And it did offer the perfect entry for me here, right off this high low. And I saw it when I was making my YouTube video, and I just sort of my mind just half tweaked to say, like, you need to get in that, and I didn't. And then it sort of retested this high up here. So that's a nice sort of, I don't know, is that a 30% bounce or something like that? So it's got decent range, and the point I'm trying to make is don't chase it. If it doesn't retrace its move and offer, sometimes they don't, sometimes they just go. If it goes, it goes, but you don't want to be chasing one of these and it doesn't continue, it just reverses on you. So still look for that good risk reward, still look to have a key area, a key line of support which you can risk off. So that's the first one, SGN. The second one I would like to look at, slightly different, is WHLR. Okay, now if we start with the daily chart for this one. Now this is interesting because I learned something pretty cool on this from one of my senior teaching members, Tanner, how he traded this. I really learned something valuable from him. So this, again, let's have a look at the daily chart. Look at the abnormally high volume coming in here. Yeah, we can see, and I think it's the most volume it's ever done in its history. Okay, that's what I mean again by a big day one. So how many shares did it do? So this one compared to the last one, obviously this is higher priced. This is just on a split, so I'm not sure how much it was priced at the time. But yeah, just because the last one did 550 million shares, this one's done 27 million. It's abnormally high means abnormally high in relation to the stock's history, not in relation to other tickers. Okay, so this is the big day one, and then we can see in this particular instance it has a big day two as well, which is great. The more green days this puts in, and the more then it retraces its move, the more I'm thinking this can bounce. Okay, so I love a day two continuation or a day three in regards to waiting for a first green day. So big day one, big day two, this is first red day, and we can see it retraced its move by 35% from its previous close. Now ideally I want, because this had moved from 3 to, this is up, you know, over 1,000%. Is it? Yeah. This is up over 1,000%. So I wanted multiple red days. However, the next day when it began to start gapping up, you know, I started to think, well, I can't control when this has its first green day. I want it to have multiple red days, but if it is going to offer me a first green day, I want to take it. And I would classify this as its first green day. However, Tanner in the Royal and Wolf's educational program said this, he didn't classify this as a first green day. He wanted it down here. I think it was because for him it hadn't retraced its move enough. But when he said that, I was like, yeah, this is definitely first green day, and I still think it is. But what I learned was how he identified this area was brilliant. And had I not seen him do that after this day, and having its first green day, I generally don't watch these stocks anymore. I'm generally done with it. It has its first, what I consider to be its first green day, and then I'm not interested. The stock's finished. I'll look for another one. However, what I saw from him was, and you'll need to ask him these questions yourself if you got them, because I'm sort of paraphrasing, but my understanding of how he traded this was that it wasn't down enough. It wasn't down enough, and so this didn't put him off trading it when it came lower, as it did for me. He simply waited and was patient for an entry that he liked. So he classified this as the first green day, therefore. So again, big day 1, big day 2, first red day, first green day for me. So this is on the 10th of September. So 10th of September is lifetimes ago, this day here. Okay, so we can see here, day 1 move here, day 2, first red day. Now this is a tricky one, slightly trickier to trade, okay, because it's broken support from the previous day, and so it's indicating that it's going to have another red day, and then all of a sudden it squeezes. And I think that one can be completely forgiven for not getting this move. But for me, the correct entry is, so it's had this push indicating, remember, like the last one did pre-market, it doesn't have to do that, but it had this push and it indicated this might be the bounce day. Again, we don't want to be chasing these, but when it has this pullback, it bounces off the nice round number of 20, and we've also got this, the previous day's lows here in 1950-ish that we can risk off. So for me, the correct entry is here, okay? And then, like we say, these first green days are backside moves, so depending on, I guess, the market environment and how much things are running, especially this particular setup, how far tickers are running that are having first green days, we kind of just want to be taking pieces off along the way. I'm still not great at identifying areas of profit-taking areas. I'm still not great at that. I'm still trying to improve my areas and understand where supply might be. Cool, so that's WHLR. The next one I would like to show you is FFIE. So let's start with the daily chart. First thing, what do you notice, guys? We're trading it on this day here. Well, actually, we're not trading it on this day, but this is, obviously it's had this massive run here. But look at this, that's its first green day. Abnormally high volume. It doesn't look big because it had this crazy run in the past, but we can see here, and right after a split as well, so extra juicy. So first green day here. I don't know if other people classify this as the first green day. Sorry, not first green day, day one move here. So big volume, big price increase, and a continuation and gap up the next day. Now this particular ticker I did trade. Again, I will leave a description, a link in the description if you want to go back and see how I traded this. I think I made $1,000 on this day, which is great. So I missed all this move, and then this began as its first red day. Well, I guess it turned red on this day. So yeah, again, it's kind of a bit of an art rather than an exact science, because I guess this is its first red day, but it's had a gap up, and I don't really classify that as a strong first red day anyway. It's in the same way that this isn't a strong first green day. It's gapped down, and it's hardly gone green, but technically that is its first green day and that is its first red day. but you kind of have to get a feel for the stocks and not be too rigid in your mindset about, it closed red, it's his first red day. It went green, it's his first green day. Yeah, you kind of have to use, I guess, like a little bit of common sense about it, if I can say that, rather than be too rigid and say, yeah, first red day, first green day. It's more get a feel for the stock and look where the stocks come from and look where you expect it to retrace to, and act accordingly. So yeah, I didn't classify this as the first green day at all. It did sort of put a little thing in my mind like, oh, is that the first green day? But I still felt this could bounce. But this is what I like to see for a retracement. Look at that, red, 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 red. Amazing. And then what do we have? First green day. Okay, now this is, I should probably mention, like, why do the stocks bounce is because various reasons really. We have dip buyers coming in to play this pattern, and we have shorts covering, and when shorts cover they have to buy, and there's kind of just, stocks don't tend to go straight up or straight down. So you can see here, up, down, they have these bounces, and this is like a backside bounce. So it doesn't, nothing to say that sometimes we see these break out. We definitely do see that. We saw one today in BNZI or something like that, so that can happen, but generally these are backside moves. Okay, so again, I will link the video in terms of how I traded this, but we can see, if we go, let's jump to the 10-minute chart. This one, first green day here, so this is its big day one, and then it's gap up the next day, and then it's fake first green day, and then it just retraces its move and has this big washout here. Now if we look on the daily chart, sorry, let's just jump back here. To me, this is a juicy candle. It's like we can see here, this is down 6%, 11, 12%, 12%, 8%, and then it's like an increase in price range. So sometimes shorts like to short parabolics, and they do that by looking at the volume increasing and the range of the stock increasing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what kind of this felt like to me. On the opposite side, the washout increased, and that's an indication to me that it could bounce from that area. Okay, so if we go to the 10-minute chart, so we can see the price action intraday, we can see this big washout here, and then it kind of forms this base here. Perks green pre-market and keeps this range, and I pretty much bought this out the gate. Okay, bought this out the gate, and I'm going to risk this previous low of day here. Didn't have enough patience, sold it all just before 5, most of it, but all the way up, so I missed this move. But we can see the kind of explosive moves that these first green days can make. But again, you don't want to be chasing that, because there's nothing to say you buy here, you're chasing it, it just reverses and breaks down. It can easily do that. The reason why I bought this out the gate was because it was just so close to support. The risk reward was very good. So that's FFIE. Alright, cool. So the final one I would like to go over is MGOL, and this chart is a bit of a mess to get my head around, to be honest with you. But we'll have a go. Big day one here. A big day one here, I guess. But I'm more interested in this area here. This is abnormally high volume, and so is this. But these are as well. And so when it has, so this is almost 100% move. Then it retraces its move here. So big day one with the gap up. First red day, second red day, first green day. Okay, and we can see here the volume come back in, and this one actually pushed to new highs, so a bit of a liquidity trap there, which often you do see with these first green days. You see a bit of liquidity trap, which is basically where I'll put a link in the video below for liquidity traps as well for anybody that wants to go and look at it. But it's basically where a stock trades very high volume and then retraces its move over the next day or two on much lower volume. So shorts are trapped and they can't really get out because shorts position according to liquidity on this day, and because the liquidity is so much lower on this day, they can't get out without affecting the price. And so when the stock begins to have its first green day on higher volume, the shorts get squeezed and end up, if they're risking off this area, they get blown out. So this one actually had a continuation on today too. We can see you've got to be careful because this is its first green day and this is its second green day, and then it has this sort of big retracement. Okay. And I was actually looking for another first green day on its downward trajectory, and it tried to have a few. You can see here it tried to pop green here, it tried to pop green here it opened green, it kept trying to go green, and I was getting chopped up and losing money on these. So you do have to be careful. They don't have to bounce. With this one, it was possibly the wrong thesis I had looking for a first green day, because this is its first green day. Do you know what I mean? This is its first green day here. It's already done that. So, that's something to take into consideration as well. But nevertheless, this did sort of break out two new highs quite significantly. And, in my eyes at the time, this could have had a first green day as it sort of surpassed its previous sort of breakout, I guess. But like I say, watching it retrace this move, trying to go green, and not doing it, I did end up taking 2 or 3 paper cuts. So just be careful if this is something you're going to trade, and be willing to cut the trade immediately if the stock isn't doing what you think it should be doing. Alright, cool. Thank you for watching, guys. That is my understanding of what a first green day is and how I like to trade it. Again, I am relatively new to longing listed stocks, so definitely go and check out the work of Tim Guttani and others. But yeah, I hope there was some value in it for you, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers.